Hey everyone! Did you know product teams waste a third of their time recreating components that already exist? That is the hidden tax of design fragmentation. Stick around as we break down the hard, mathematical ROI of enterprise design systems for your leadership team. Let's jump in.
We're going to reframe a concept that honestly gets misunderstood a lot: design systems. We're not talking about digital color palettes or pretty aesthetic tools today. Nope. We're looking at the hard data to reframe these systems as what they really are: strategic, revenue-generating business assets. So, if you want to know exactly how scalable design cuts costs and massively accelerates your growth, you are definitely in the right place.
All right, let's run through our agenda for this explainer real quick. We're going to cover 1. The hidden tax of rework. 2. Defining the asset. 3. Quantifying ROI. 4. The compound efficiency curve. And finally, number 5, measuring the metrics that actually matter.
Okay, let's jump right into section 1, the hidden tax of rework. We really need to talk about the invisible inefficiencies that are quietly bleeding enterprise budgets dry as we speak.
Take a look at this number: 34%. Research shows that product teams spend 34% of their development cycles just recreating components that already exist somewhere else in the organization. I mean, just think about that for a second. Over a third of your highly paid engineering and design talent's time is quite literally being wasted on redundant work. It's basically the digital equivalent of paying your absolute best architects to sit around and continuously reinvent the doorknob.
This right here is what we call the hidden tax of design fragmentation. And frankly, it's costing enterprises millions every single year. When visual components and workflows are just thrown together in an ad hoc way, it builds up massive design debt. But more importantly for the bottom line, this fragmentation directly puts the brakes on your time to market and seriously bloats operational costs. It creates these sluggish workflows where teams end up operating in silos, which absolutely tanks the speed at which your products are updated and released.
So, how do we actually solve this? Well, let's move on to section 2, defining the asset. What's super interesting here is how this concept completely shifts our perspective. You see, a design system is not just some static style guide or a simple PDF of brand colors. Scratch that idea completely. It is a living, incredibly scalable architecture. We're talking about a collection of reusable coded components, guided by crystal clear standards, acting as a single source of truth for your entire organization. The whole operative philosophy here is builds once, deploy everywhere. You update it centrally, and boom, it automatically propagates across all of your digital products. But hey, I know a philosophy isn't going to get buy-in from the C-suite on its own, so let's get into the hard math in section 3, quantifying ROI.
Let's look at a very realistic scenario for a mid-sized enterprise over a 5-year span. Imagine you've got a team of 5 designers and 10 developers. Now, the initial investment to build this system effectively eats up about 7.6 months of the team's time upfront. But wait, look at the reclaimed capacity. Your design team saves 20.5 months of work. That equates to over $500,000. The dev team? They save nearly 17 months, reclaiming over $1 million. Add that up, and you're looking at over $1.5 million in total savings. That yields a blended net return on investment of around 135%. Not too shabby, right?
Now, you might be wondering, how exactly do we get these numbers? Well, we calculate these exact figures using the Smashing Magazine ROI formula, which is pretty much the gold standard for evaluating this stuff. It looks at 3 main variables: setup time, maintenance overhead, and efficiency gains. By mapping the time investment during those ramp-up and maintenance phases against the undeniable productivity gains, you see exactly how the net time gain, and therefore your financial return, is calculated mathematically. So yeah, it's not just guesswork, it's a verified, hard formula.
And that brings us to this really fantastic quote from industry research. The idea is that by systematically handling 80% of routine design and dev needs, your teams are finally freed up to focus their highly specialized skills on that remaining 20%. Reclaiming this massive chunk of capacity is huge. It lets your teams pivot their focus away from just repetitive execution and redirects all that brainpower towards strategic innovation, playing with emerging tech, and high-value problem solving. So the absolutely crucial point here is that this reclaimed capacity directly fuels growth and velocity. Organizations running mature design systems actually ship new features up to 40% faster. Designers are saving up to 50% of their time, and developers up to 47%. But it's way beyond just saving time. This kind of efficiency allows for truly scalable multi-product expansion. You can launch new products or tap into new markets without having to balloon your headcount to match. Oh, and those machine-readable design tokens? That literally makes your organization instantly ready for the future of AI-assisted coding. These velocity gains aren't just nice-to-haves. They are direct growth drivers that make your enterprise incredibly agile.
If you want some hard, real-world proof, just look at Atlassian. By implementing their design system, standard feature development sprints that used to take a full 14 days were condensed down to, wait for it, just 3.5 days. They essentially slashed their development time for new features by 65%. That kind of speed to market is an absolute game changer for your competitive advantage.
Okay, let's prepare for the realities of actually implementing this in Section 4, the compound efficiency curve. Expectation management is absolutely key here if you want to unlock those long-term compounding returns.
So this chart outlines what we often call the J-curve of productivity. When you first implement a design system, year one is going to require a solid investment. You'll see a dip in productivity right at the bottom of the J there, simply because teams are spending time building out the foundations instead of shipping immediate features. But once that foundation is rock solid, productivity shoots up, crosses the baseline, and scales into this beautiful exponential compounding efficiency that totally leaves non-system teams in the dust.
Here's a realistic timeline of what that curve actually looks like. Phase 1 is the foundation stage. Think 3 to 6 months to audit your current components and build out the basic building blocks. Next up is Phase 2, adoption. This takes about 6 to 12 months. This is where teams start plugging the system into real products, and you really start seeing productivity accelerate. Finally, Phase 3 is maturity, right around that 12-month mark and beyond, where the whole system becomes self-sustaining. The huge takeaway for executives here, you're typically hitting positive ROI by year 2.
Let's look at exactly how this J-curve played out over at Airbnb. They invested a hefty $2.1 million upfront in development time just to build their foundational system. Obviously a massive commitment. But look at the 5-year cumulative return over on the right. That system ended up producing $7.3 million in annual savings. That is a jaw-dropping 247% cumulative ROI. And during that initial ramp-up phase is exactly what unlocked those multi-million-dollar annual savings at scale. And it's what allowed them to expand across web, iOS, and Android so seamlessly.
Of course, to guarantee those kinds of returns, you need some accountability. Let's look at Section 5, measuring metrics that matter.
Listen, the sheer number of components in a system doesn't mean a thing. It's all about adoption. Tracking your feature coverage is absolutely vital. When your teams are building a new digital feature, your gold standard should be hitting an 80% or higher component reuse rate. If 80% of a brand new interface is built using your pre-tested system components and only 20% requires custom, from-scratch coding, you've done it. You have successfully verified high adoption and massive efficiency.
And these right here are the essential outcome metrics your organization should be tracking. Look at the reduction in post-release interface bugs. We typically see those drop by 40 to 60%. Why? Because you're using standardized, pre-tested code. You'll also notice the time from design approval to code merge shrinking significantly. And because consistent, highly accessible interfaces dramatically reduce user confusion, you will regularly see a 20 to 30% drop in customer support tickets. These aren't vanity metrics. They prove the system is reducing friction, mitigating risk, and seriously elevating your product quality.
So, as we wrap up this explainer today, we really need to flip the risk equation. A lot of the time, leadership gets caught up worrying about the upfront cost of building a design system. But knowing that product teams waste 34% of their time just recreating existing work and looking at the undeniable mathematical ROI achieved by heavy hitters like Atlassian and Airbnb, well, the real question isn't whether design systems deliver ROI. The question you should be asking is the opportunity cost and the literal millions lost annually by sticking to the fragmented status quo simply too high for your organization to ignore?